Welcome to today's Europe Hangout, our last one of the season. I'm Victoria Schaefer, Senior Membership Manager at HFTP, alongside Carl Weldon, HFTP's Chief Operations Officer in Europe, and our special guest today, Ian Millar, Timo Kettern, Barry Thomas, and Mark Pate, who is the HFTP President this year. Before we begin, I will quickly go over a few items about the format of today's broadcast and the Zoom platform. First, this is a conversation and your input is important and encouraged. Your microphone is muted at this time to avoid background noise. However, please unmute when your microphone at any time by clicking the microphone icon at the bottom of the Zoom window. And you can also submit in the chat feature or at the bottom of the screen any questions and we may ask on your behalf. HFTP Hangouts are educational discussions offered in a non-sales environment. Product promotion or sales pitches in the presentation or through the chat feature are not allowed. Also, HFTP's antitrust statement has been posted in the chat. We do have a code of conduct, which we require everyone to follow on HFTP Hangouts. We are monitoring the chat box and will call on you to ask your question to the group, or we may ask on your behalf. Our intent is to respond to all questions, but if we cannot, we can follow up with an email response. If you need a technical assistance, please submit a chat. This Hangout is being recorded, and a link to the recording and discussion will be available at the HFTP website soon. After Carl's introduction, we will begin the conversation and we will open things up for discussion and questions towards the end. Again, interaction is encouraged and we want to have a great conversation. Carl, over to you to start the discussion.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed, Victoria. And hello again, everybody, and welcome. Now, as most of you know, we've created these Hangouts, especially for our European members and stakeholders, every other Wednesday, but normally at 3 p.m. UK time, 4 p.m. Central European time, and just in time for some of our American friends as they come in early to enjoy their morning coffee. This is now our 29th European Hangout, or 34th, if you count the excellent HITEC Europe Sessions we've been doing up until the last 5 weeks. We did have a planned program. This is the final one of this season until we start again in September. This is the 19th and final Europe Hangout of the season in conjunction with HMI and the European Hotel Managers Association, with thanks to our friend Natalie Cobden at HMI. I should also point out there are now 26 recordings from previous European Hangouts and HITEC European Sessions, the first 3, via our resources page in our Hangouts area and on the website and on our YouTube channel. Just search for HFTP Europe Hangouts. This should be a great resource for anyone studying the industry or for any colleagues and friends who you think should watch the sessions and need the time to do so later. So, who will we hang out with today and where to start? Well, it is half time in the year. So let me explain to you the concept and the structure of our Hangout today. First, we will have a conversation with Ian Millar, Senior Lecturer in Hospitality IT at Luzerne Hotel School and an HFTP Paragon Award winner, plus Timo Kettern, the CIO of Bierwirth and Kluth. Hope I've said that correctly, Timo, who also double up as the Chair and Deputy Chair of the HITEC Europe 2021 Advisory Council, both long-term HFTP supporters. Now, Ian and Timo will have a discussion with myself about the hospitality year so far, especially in relation to the HITEC Europe sessions and the topics we've covered so far in Hangouts. Then, and we're going to ask you a few questions as well as the audience, so time to stay awake. Then we will look forward into the rest of the year with Barry Thomas, a Brit who was abroad in LA, but back again in London, I'm very pleased to say. Barry is Senior Corporate Director, Property Technology at Rosewood Hotel Group, and also Deputy Chair of the HITEC Dallas Advisory Council. If you want to know more about Barry, do watch the recording of our special Hangout with Barry that we did at Cyber HITEC last year. Barry will be joined by our special US-American guest today, Mark Pate, who is the Assistant Controller and IT Director at Highpointe Hotel Corporation in Florida, and is also, more importantly, HFTP's President for this year. Barry and Mark will be looking forward to HITEC Dallas education sessions that have just been announced. And so we should be considering going forward in the second half. And I've got a feeling Barry also may provide us with a forecast of the England versus Ukraine match score on Saturday towards the end. Okay, so let's start. Ian, the advisory board or council that we created this year for HITEC 2021 and the sessions was a little bit more international this year after growing in Mallorca and Spain previously. And we also went a little bit east, it would appear. How did this come about? Tell us all about it.
But I mean, obviously, there was obviously the continuity of keeping the advisory council going, and obviously the changes that go through. And there were some suggestions from some of the members of the US Advisory Council that they've sort of worked with these sort of other profile of people that did lead us to go a little bit more Eastern. But it's also something when, remember, we were discussing it, and obviously with Timo, you know, we're trying to make it the most representative of Europe as possible. You know, and for us, you know, Europe is not just one country, it's not just English, it's multiple countries. France operate different than Spain. There's very specific things in Germany, especially example GDPR, where it's taken super serious versus stuff that happens in Italy. Eastern European is almost like a whole ecosystem in itself. So it's really tried to keep the European diversity, I think might be the best word, within the council, and that should then hopefully represent in the sessions and the content and the people involved.
And after 2 years of virtual HITEC sessions, do you think, as the chairman, I mean, I guess this is a much wider topic in terms of the current pandemic or current situation, we'll have an in-person HITEC Europe sometime soon?
I seriously hope so, because I don't, if we're all getting these now, so getting our certificates on our phones, double jab travel. So I think we should, I think we could, I think more importantly, I think we want to. And if anybody else on the screen wants to nod and saying, yeah, I'd actually just really like to meet up and have a beer in Mallorca with real people.
Yeah.
There you go. So I think, you know, that's always been one strength of the real HITEC, is the fact that we're together in one location.
Yeah.
I think the fact that we've done the Hangouts and virtual HITEC, I mean, we agree, you know, this was a reaction to the fact we all got shoved home and stay at home a bit. And I think that also showed a little bit the ethos of the association. We wanted to keep the contact and the discussion and sessions and whatever it is, we needed to keep it going. I think we wanted, I think also we needed to, because for me, it's sort of been a little bit of my highlight every other Tuesday to jump on and have a chat and have a bit of banter and see people. So it's in the best way that we can. It's allowed us to at least keep some continuity in our relationships and networks going. But I think everyone was nodding. I want to be in Spain with a beer, some nice jamon, and with real people. That's what we're ultimately missing.
Yeah, I think our best chance is to join
Jutta. Can I just add something?
Match, yeah? Go ahead.
Yeah. No, not with Jutta. She loses. The Germans lose. I just want to make the bridge between question 1 and question 2. So we want to grow the audience. We want to grow the participation. We want to grow into continental Europe. We want to go east. And I think we need the in-person networking, the opportunity to meet at HITEC, and just really to deepen those conversations and have more conversations and grow the network, and then grow it east. So I think we need to have the in-person contact, because it's so important for growing the network and growing participation and growing audience and growing the interests for everyone.
Yeah, it's because we're in hospitality, aren't we? Go ahead, Ian.
So I just want to jump on something from Timo, and that's actually maybe get a bit of discussion going. Yeah. Obviously, when COVID hit, you know, we created this program as a reaction to that. But if we look at before, when HITEC was sort of every year, and then we had to wait a year, me personally, it's just something, you know, sidetrack and come back what you said at the beginning, Carl, about, you know, the amount of online content. For me as an educator, the content that's being created by the European Hangouts is a dream. It's on our LMS. I've got all the sessions on there, even the one with the discussion with Barry's on there. You know, and I'm actively, you know, pushing my students towards it. So I'd be interested to see what people feel. Yes, we all want to meet, and I want to have a lovely glass of white wine with Stephanie and all that kind of stuff. But do you think we should keep these hangouts going as an extra point between the physical events? I'd love to hear people's opinion.
Yeah, please.
Maybe you can write something in the chat. Yes.
Yeah, that'd be excellent. Yeah. Just coming back, guys, to the, you were instrumental in the 5 HITEC sessions we've had, which, it's all started 5 or 6 weeks ago. And with HITEC, it was our aim to give individual hoteliers some concrete ideas in terms of what can be done to support the recovery and make them, I think we used the phrase, business sustainable. Were you happy that we achieved that with the topics we went with in the end with HITEC sessions?
Timo, you want to go?
Yeah, I can take that. Yes, yes, I am. The subjects are still relevant, and if you would ask the questions, would we still choose the same subjects now? I guess yes, because they are relevant and are relevant going forward. So I think where we can become better and things we should work on as a committee or as a group of people is engaging with the local country-specific hotel organizations, so that we can use them as a multiplier into the individual hotels, because we did not always reach the individual kind of hotel technology person who's responsible for a smallish hotel group. We don't speak to on a regular basis. So I think that's one area for me when I'm still can be involved next year, which I want to grow together with my counterparts in the countries to get more the multiplying with the hotel associations going.
So you're saying topics were fine. It was more the reach and getting people to understand what we were doing.
Yes, yeah.
That you'd like to expand on.
Yeah, the kind of the language breakout rooms we decided to have at the end, the discussion rooms at the end. I still think that's an excellent idea to have those. If we can widen our reach with the hotel organizations as a multiplier, or hotel schools as a multiplier, that is going to be even better, having the opportunity to exchange your views in your native language.
Yeah,
sure.
I think it's an interesting comment on the industry, isn't it? The associations working together. Ian, go ahead.
Yeah, I just want to pick up, and I think looking at the chat, a lot of people agree that they want us to continue what we're doing here now, whether that's on the same frequency. That's obviously to be discussed, but I think, Michael, your point's very good, is it allows us, we can be reactive and pick up on hot topics. So if we think, when we're just having HITEC once a year, a new topic comes out, whatever it is, on IoT, who cares? And then we have to wait a year before any kind of discussion goes around. This allows us to pick up timely stuff, and then maybe think of the really important ones to address more in depth in the actual HITEC. So I think this kind of hybrid model is probably where we're going to, and wants to put the hand up or agree or vote, that we're probably going to stick with, at least for the foreseeable future.
Yeah, it's interesting. I'm not sure we would have got, the story of the room service robot from Bulgaria if we'd been doing a real HITEC, and we probably would not have got him on screen and everything like that. Timo, you wanted to say something else there?
No, I just wanted to agree that I also think that blending the virtual format with the in-person format, that's probably a good way forward to keep the engagement also going.
Yeah. Timo, I hear that you and Bierwirth and Kluth are working alongside the German government and the IHA on a digital identity proof of concept for hotels. Can you give us a little update on that and explain maybe to the audience what's going on there?
I can actually. So it's about digital identity. in Germany, there has been a scheme for the last 10 years or so that you can use your personal identification card, your Personalausweis. It's a long German word. We love our words. You can use that with it has a inbuilt RFID chip, and with a PIN, you can use that as a digital signature. So you can go anywhere on the internet, and you can verify that you are you using your personal ID card, the German ID card. But you need to have a special reader, you need to have a special software on there, you need to have a special token on it, so to verify that you use. So it's not easy. So what the German government has realized is then that organizations, the big platforms like Google or Apple, they are entering into that ID space with they are log on with your Apple ID, log on with your Amazon ID, log on with your Google ID, what have you. So and they realized that the German ID card is going, or the using that as your digital ID is going nowhere, and they wanted to. They didn't want to leave the space entirety to the North American platforms. So and then they decided we need to do something ourselves, because issuing passports, issuing ID cards is a core function of any state. And so they decided they want to have the digital ID. It starts with the same organization which actually issues the German passport or the German ID card. Only you get in your wallet, you get the ID that you are you. And then to add on top of that, you can or companies can add in that wallet that I work at Bierwirth and Kluth. So Bierwirth and Kluth needs to be a trusted issuer of those statements, and then in the digital ID I can implement that. What does that mean for hotels? So for hotels, specifically the German hotels, we still have the Deutsche Meldegesetz, which is a law which requires us to have a piece of paper with a signature on with anyone who stays in the hotel. With PSD2 and the strong customer authentication, we can now use the credit card strong customer authentication as a method of doing that. It's still very cumbersome. So the German government want to use the digital ID as a proof of identity, which you then can use in a hotel to check in. Not only, there's other proof of concepts as well. So in parallel, there's something with banks where you open accounts. There is something with the postal services, and there are other plans running in parallel. But they want to use this digital ID to check in into hotels. So they need partner hotels to be available for the digital ID travelers who have the digital ID and have the digital company ID in their wallet, to be trialing that. And there are essentially 3 work streams. So one work stream is getting the digital platform going, where hoteliers can participate to validate the digital ID for check-in purposes. The second stream is integration with the PMS partners and the existing kiosk vendors, and the third work stream was kind of how can multiply that. So in Bierwirth and Kluth, we are taking part in the first work stream, which is the digital platform, and how can hoteliers participate with that. So the main difference here is it is in accordance with German law, and if you want to run a hotel in Germany, we can do that now with a digital ID, and with that platform, if you participate in that platform, you can validate the digital ID. So the requirement to have the piece of paper goes away, and we have a fully strong authentication of the customer that he is he. So I've seen, or we had some debate about digital IDs and digital verification that I am me on global scale. But at least something we're doing something in Germany now, and there's some hotels are coming together. So there is Motel One is in there, Bierwirth and Kluth is in there, Dorint Hotels is in there, and we're all working together as a group alongside with the German government. So it's state funded, and with IBM, we're using one of their blockchains to do the verification and the storing of the IDs. So it's a good project we've started, and of course it's one of those things which have been accelerated by COVID-19, because otherwise it would have just sit there and nobody would be interested. But now with contactless and making it a lot easier for people to travel, that's something which is coming our way. And in Germany, we're trying it now.
We should probably get you on the personal identity work group that we've got going. I think a practical case fit, and I think you're right, Timo. I think we've had 3 years worth of digital development in 1 year. If the governments are getting on with it, I think that's fascinating. I suspect as well with I think it's the California Consumer Privacy Act coming in as well. It'll all be very interesting coming forward, and we'll be moving a lot quicker.
But for sure, a subject which we need to follow from HFTP and HITEC Europe, because that is going to be defining how we're going to do things in the future.
Absolutely, I think with that, there's a technical item that we'll have on the list going forward. So quickly, before we move on, Ian and Timo, to have a chat with Mark and Barry, what were your highlights this year? What was your point where you went, yes, this is a good thing to be involved with? What do you remember?
Out of the sessions, I remember all of them. The one that I think for me that stood out, especially early on, was Michael Levy, when he was going through the experience that he learned out of China, because that was when we were still very early in COVID, and basically none of us had a clue about anything and what was going on. I think that, plus coming from at the time the president, I think that was actually, I'm going to use the word calming for quite a few people.
Yeah.
As in, you don't need to run around panicking. It's actually okay if we just chill a little bit.
Yeah.
But then I think what's been nice is just seeing the regularity of the people on the calls. And obviously, we've then got into our professional lives and been given things were not available all the time. So I think that was good. I think the one from Javier, when he brought in what he's doing with the Beer Star, that was also very insightful. But I think just the fact that we've managed to get this far in the Hangouts with the people, and again, maybe just take the time now, thanking everyone for giving up your time to do this. It is appreciated. I think that just shows that this is really a part of what we're going to be taking forward, definitely.
Yeah, Timo.
For me, it was working with the advisory council on the HITEC sessions bit, if you want to, because once again I found that we hotel technology minded people and revenue and distribution minded people, we can get on with things, and we have a plan, we have a goal, and everyone contributes. So working with the team, that was a good experience. From the Hangouts and from the sessions, the highlights for me were I have 2 teenage sons in the household, so the environment, sustainability is something which we discuss regularly in our household, and it is close to my heart. So the sessions around sustainability with Dr. Willy and the Fraunhofer Institute, I did find those really, really inspiring, and because they have a really long-term impact on all of us, or the issue has, and we all need to somehow to do something with it. Technology, if you hear that, I don't know, 25% of the global power is used for mining bitcoins. Come on, that can't be true. We need to be better than that. We need to do something going forward. So sustainability, that is close to my heart, and I enjoyed those sessions really good.
I must say, Megan, one of our advisory council members, the director of sustainability for Iberostar, was absolutely awesome last week. Yeah. Okay, so that's the first half with our European friends, with the tears still just drying on Timo's cheeks as we speak. So let's, in some ways, move across the Atlantic all the way to London, southwest London somewhere, with Barry and Mark. Mark is actually actually in Florida with us, but Barry's in London, but he's deputy chair of our HITEC Dallas Council. Barry, tell us a little bit about, we've just literally announced all the education sessions at HITEC in Dallas on the 27th September. Tell us a little bit about what you've got planned for us and some of the highlights for you.
I think I'd like to start just by following on from Ian and Timo's conversation, and really excited to confirm that HITEC Dallas is going to be an in-person event. Last year, obviously, we switched and pivoted to Cyber HITEC, but this is going to be an in-person event. HFTP have run 1 or 2 in-person events already this year that have been hugely successful, and I'm sure that HITEC will be as well. So as long as the president of the US allows me in, I will be flying over to attend. So as long as that travel corridor opens up, I'm looking forward to attending. As you say, September 27th to 30th, the Kay Bailey Hutchinson Convention Center in Dallas. So we as an advisory council is slightly larger than the European Advisory Council. We've got 26 industry leaders that form our advisory council, and we're supported by 3 amazing HFTP staff. Same as you would support the European Council. As a council, we first met in April of this year, and we've been working over several online meetings in creating an education program. This is done slightly differently this year than it's normally done. Normally, the advisory council would meet in person at an event and really brainstorm and workshop through these like the sessions. But we've had to find new ways of doing it, and actually, we're trying to find technology that's allowing us to be able to vote for sessions that we thought were important. And we're really pleased to sort of finalize that education program. We've got 7 concurrent sessions, 6 super sessions, 1 ethics session, and we'll have new for 2021, 3 club technology sessions. And these are really focusing on the HFTP club members, where a lot of the financial controllers are also in charge of IT in the clubs. So there's 3 sessions, especially for those, to really help them understand technology, pitch the technology projects, and implement it in their clubs. Something that we focused on a lot, and you'll see if you've reviewed the education session schedules, is that we want to focus on the future. That we've worked hard to ensure that we're not looking at COVID. And in fact, there's only 1 session in the entire education program that is related to the pandemic, and that's staffing and the challenges that everyone's having with recruiting staff at all levels of our business at the moment. And we felt that that was important enough and will be a challenge enough even in September, October, November as we move forward. So we want to focus on the future. This year, the Advisory Council have focused and worked really hard on creating real learning objectives for every session that we put on. And the idea of this is to allow our attendees to understand what they're going to get out of each session. We don't want you just looking at a session description and not really understanding whether it's right for you. We want our attendees to have actionable takeaways as they walk out of those education rooms. And there's 3 sessions that I'm really excited about out of this. There's all of them, obviously, but I'm going to talk about 3 that we're looking on, that I'm sort of looking at and excited to attend. And before I hand over to Mark, but one of them is it's called The Chief Financial Officer is Not the Only CFO, introducing the Chief Futurist Officer. Then we're looking at the First Mover Advantage. Are you leading edge or bleeding edge? Which really, both of those sessions take a deep dive into innovation and day after tomorrow thinking. And then there's one about hyper-personalization and the future of guest experience. So just to give you a bit of an insight into these sessions and things that the council felt was very important for people to be thinking about in the second half of this year and then moving into 2022. So the Chief Futurist Officer is really, if anyone can explore and predict possibilities about the future of hospitality, it's us. It's the IT leaders within the hotels. The session is going to investigate the Chief Futurist Officer, a role and what that role would entail, because it's likely already us. You know, we are starting to do this job. As IT people in the room are moving from being the people that sit in a basement fixing things to being true business leaders. The session is going to allow us to understand how technology leaders can move can do more with less and be better prepared for moving into the future. So attendees are going to learn what it means to be that Chief Futurist Officer, what can be done to be better prepared moving into the future, and also learn how to remove friction and add value by synergizing or replacing existing technology speakers. And we have a great speaker lined up for this session. Mike Rawson, who's the CIO of Citizen Hotels, who's going to be leading this session. And if anyone has read the Hospitality Upgrade Technology Rockstar interview that he did, that is what it's going to be based on. And if you haven't, there we go, Andy. I see you with it in your hand there. If you haven't read it, I highly recommend you reading that article. Actually, all of the Technology Rockstar articles, but that one in particular. And that's going to give you a flavor of what's to come in his session. Along the same lines, moving into leading edge or bleeding edge. And where are we? You know, I think traditionally we all know that hotels sit 10 years behind technology, but there are some hotel companies out there that are willing to take a gamble. Citizen being one of them, Ferndale being another, have the appetite for some risk. So this is going to be a strategic management orientated session that will investigate trends and sustainability and the competitive advantage available to hoteliers in 2022 and beyond. Becoming the first to incorporate the new and hot technology can be a big boon for business, but investments in novel technologies can also turn out to be unwise use of funds and backfire very quickly. So the session will help attendees learn how to make smart financial decisions when it comes to the hottest new tech on the market. The attendees will come out of this understanding the advantages and disadvantages of pioneering and implementing new technologies, known as the first mover advantage. They will understand how to take the first step into moving from current state to new state with regards to emerging technologies. And really, the most important thing is learn when to quit. You know, fail and fail fast and then try again, I think is going to be the important message from that session. And again, another amazing speaker lined up. We've got the former Senior Vice President of Global Technology from Hyatt, Jeff, and I'm going to butcher his surname, so I apologize. Luckily, Jeff's not on the call. Bezwaka, who's now the newly appointed CEO of the Nolan Group. And then the final session I'm looking forward to, and this is one I'm working on personally, is on hyper-personalization and the future of guest experience. And this is going to be a panel session. And what you'll notice from the education program is we've reduced the number of panel sessions that are going to be at HITEC Dallas. This is really to give the time for our attendees to learn from individual speakers, but our super sessions might be panel sessions. And this is going to be formed, this session will have cross-functional leaders. We're going to have leaders and experts from the technology field, from the operations field, and some legal experts, where we really start delving into hyper-personalization as the future of the guest journey. And how do we navigate this alongside the privacy minefield that we're all facing? Then we've spoken about GDPR, we've spoken about CCPA, and all of these new regulations, which are going to continue to come, are going to play a big part on how we operate and how we can personalize our guest experience. And just before I hand over to our president, Mark, and I think Mark might be talking about one of these sessions, to Timo's conversation about digital identity, there's 2 sessions that are going to be on that in the education program as well. So some really exciting things coming. With that,
Barry, just before we go to Mark, can you just, for the benefit of our European listeners or attendees, you talked about concurrent sessions and super sessions, and can you just describe what the difference in terms of what we're talking about there at HITEC?
Yeah, this is one that always confused me as an attendee of HITEC. I couldn't work it out. I thought the super session ones were super, but it's really the time and the format. So a concurrent session is a 50-minute session. A super session is going to be a 70-minute session or 75-minute session. So it's really, the super sessions allow us to delve deeper into it. It allows a more in-depth conversation into the topic. So the way that the council have put these together is what we are really considering is the most important things that people should be learning about in the second half of this year and moving into next year are going to be a super session. And then, you know, we talk about actually getting to HITEC Dallas and accessing it. Again, excited to say that there will be a level of online access. There is going to be a way that if you physically can't get over to Dallas, that you can still participate. Things like HITEC TV and HITEC Encore. So we're going to be producing some sessions after HITEC, 2 to 3 weeks after, that we're going to run a series very similar to the European format because it's been so successful. I think when I was over in the US, in every meeting that I've attended, whether it be on the board of directors or the HITEC Advisory Council, we constantly refer back to the European Hangout sessions and how successful they've been, and how we should look at implementing those for HITEC US as well.
Great. Fantastic. And I think Victoria and I, together with Brian, are working on maybe having a HITEC Europe interview on the floor with some of y'all, as they say, on one of the sessions there. So whether you'll be there or not, I don't know. Let's go over to Mark. Mark, you alone just being president of HFTP in a time such as this, but you're also on the HITEC Dallas Council. Tell us more from your point of view, from a more US-centric point of view.
Okay. Well, even before I do that, could I just say a couple of thank yous? One to you all for allowing me to be part of the Europe Hangouts. I have learned so much, got to know you virtually. I'll be thrilled when we get to meet in person. Just to thank you also to Barry and to Austin Justin Talion, our co-chairs of the HITEC Advisory. They have done an amazing job along with the council and the Austin staff. I can't tell you how excited we are to have an in-person event. Barry had alluded. We had Club Summit in Florida, our first back in-person event. It was sold out. It was great. Florida Regional is next month. And so all these are practices getting ready for HITEC Dallas. So just very excited about that. Kind of piggybacking off what Barry was saying before I highlight some of the sessions, some of the other things we do at HITEC, I don't know how many of you ever have been able to be at one, but some of the things that I really enjoy are what's called the tech talks. So these are like 15, 20 minutes where not a vendor, but HFTP business partner gets to highlight whatever their technology is. They have a captured audience there on the floor. Another one is that is part of HITEC is the vendor tutorials. So it's like a tech talk, but it's in a closed room. It's more like 30 minutes, and it's more, they really can't talk about their specific company, but more the technology that they bring to the show floor. Another thing is we, as you probably are, I'm looking across the screen, we are always struggling with bringing younger people into the industry, into the association. So we have what's called the YP, Young Professionals Council, and they are focused. They already have 1 or 2 events planned for the HITEC, just trying to get younger folks, not necessarily coming out of college, but new, maybe to the hospitality industry or in another industry, and bring them over to hospitality. So some things that we are doing there. And we did this several years ago, and we're bringing it back, where you can go through the show floor, but you and 500, 600, 700 other people. What we're bringing back are some personal tours. So you can sign up. The show floor is closed except for these special groups, and they're highlighted different businesses. So just some things that I'm excited about that are coming that I think are going to make HITEC even more special, along with being back in person on that. So just a couple of things, Carl. Would you like me to talk about any of the
sessions that you,
things or
yeah, please
questions?
do, yeah. Please,
Okay.
what are the education sessions that are floating your boat, Mark?
Okay, well, the good thing is it was actually hard to narrow them down to 2 or 3 because as Barry has alluded to, the advisory councils work very hard to make them very relevant, to make them non-COVID, to make them future looking. We've mentioned it several times, but we do have a session. We were talking about digital ID. We are calling it decentralized ID. Whose ID is it anyway? And it's really talking about the emerging framework of decentralized ID and and I'm going to read this so I don't mess this, self-sovereign IDs, SSIs. An overview of the subject is going to review the key applications that could benefit hotels And they're actually taking a use case scenario and breaking that down. So a lot of detailed stuff. This was new, a new idea to me, but it was very hot as soon as it was mentioned. The advisory council jumped on that and wanted to bring that to the show floor. Some of the things that you're going to walk away with are the social and benefit drivers that are propelling this. And Timo was mentioning some of that in alignment with the government as well as hospitality. And the underlying technologies to make it work, how it's going to be orchestrated, and how it can benefit the hotel company. You know, not just technology, but how can we leverage that also. One that I'm pretty excited about, the title they've given it is The Next Wave in Hotel Development. What is a digital hotel and are they hiring? Again, as we said, we've got two great speakers here. But what they're looking at is these nimble venture capital hotel startups that are actually blurring the lines between a conventional hotel management company and a technology integrator. These digital hotels stake their differentiation on delivering a tech-forward, mobile-first guest experience. Some of the questions they're going to answer is, why is Silicon Valley suddenly so interested in the hotel business? Who are these guys? What are they doing differently? And where are they getting all this money from to do these digital hotels? Yeah. Again, some takeaways there is actually defining, if you're not familiar with a digital hotel, how to identify some of these infant brands. These are brand new players to the hospitality space, and how they differ themselves from the big box brands. Several more, but one that probably I'm sure is on your plates as well as ours is called They Are Out to Get You, your hotel's most pressing cybersecurity threats. And probably that's on your mind all the time. You know, why don't these guys use all this money and all these brains for good, but they're trying to break in, they're trying to get your identity, your information. And so we're looking there at today's cyber landscape. What they're trying to do, though, is not let this be 50 minutes of just information, trying to make it very practical, help you identify your level of exposure, determine which threat is most important for you to address first. And then if you do actually get breached, how to develop your posture and to be ready. What do I do? I've been breached. I've got ransomware. I've got this threat. What do I do next? So try to make it very practical there so that you walk away. I think they're actually working on a checklist, not 50 pages, but a couple pages of this is what you need to do to get ready. If you have the threat and the breach, what are my next steps in that? Because a lot of us don't know that, and couple that with a business continuity plan on that. So just a couple that I'm excited about. There's many more, and I think Carl's posted the full session listing there. So please go out there and take a look at those. And we hope, if you're not able to be there in person, that you definitely can join us virtually and see some of the highlights on that.
Question that Colin asked us earlier on was referring to E20X, which is, some of those of you who don't know, is our startup competition that we've held in the US and in Europe quite successfully. I don't believe we're doing E20X this year at HITEC, are we, Barry or Mark?
No, it won't happen this year, but I believe it will be brought back the following year. So it's a year
okay,
from this
great.
year. And
Colin, did you want to ask the question about E20X that you put in the text there specifically?
Well, no, I mean, it's obviously thank you for putting these sessions on, and actually, well, possibly, I guess, speaking on behalf of anyone basically wants to sort of bring something that's good to the market, where I guess the driver's slightly different from a for-profit environment. I think E20X is a rare gem basically within the not-for-profit environment where the drivers are somewhat different. So I guess it's slightly disappointing, I guess, that I guess the population or the number of platforms to bring innovation for social good, all that tech for good, all that sort of stuff, I guess is shrunk by one, at least one. But no, I mean, I guess it was more of a statement, I think, basically around E20X, obviously as a vital platform rather than an actual question. Did you see a question in there then, or?
Well, sort of, yeah. I think
Right.
it was really. I was really suggesting asking via Mark and Barry. We haven't let it go. We are just not. It's just put off for another year.
I think a logistical thing this year, and again, it's the first in-person event again following the pandemic. So, although E20X was successfully run at HITEC Dubai a month or so ago, so it's certainly not going away. It's very important. It's very important to people within HFTP, and obviously it's led by, and it was, I guess, the brainchild of Lyle Worthington, who's, I know, has joined a number of these calls previously. It will definitely be back. It will definitely be on the agenda in the future. It's just this year, I think that the logistics side of it's a little bit difficult.
Great. Interesting point made by Paul Nisbet here, where he's, I think this is an interesting question for both Barry, Mark, Ian, and Timo, in terms of targeting, shall we say, techs people in a smaller group where we know hotels are outsourcing their support or some of their technology to outsource companies. How do we reach those hoteliers? Do you think there's a new challenge for us as association and events?
Oh, that's a good question. How do you reach those? I think it's only with the reach of your own network. That is, I have good. My network in Germany and the German-speaking part is good, so I know some of the guys who also outsource. I also talk to these outsource organizations as well, and I could reach out to those also to understand who are their customers and who would be a good person to get involved in these kind of educational sessions. So I guess it can be done, Carl, but it is work.
Yes, Paul.
Yeah, what it's more about, we were talking about trying to broaden the width of HITEC Europe and where do we go, and I'm just very conscious that it was just saying like trying to get to the smaller hoteliers and people like that, and a lot of that they will look at parts of their journey and say, well, actually we're outsourcing certain things, and these companies aren't, you know, they will be operating the IT as if it's your own IT or whatever. So it's more looking at, there's obviously, you know, a depth of IT specialists within these companies who probably don't see that HFTP, etc., is a body they should be engaged with, but actually we're there to serve them. And where I was really looking at is like the membership and actually building their knowledge and helping them gain from the work we're doing here. And it just felt to me, it was like a kind of a lost group of people. We focus maybe on some of the hotel businesses and whatever, but we actually don't think of that middle ground that sits there between some of the software suppliers, some of the hoteliers, and they're providing such a service. And that's a route where some of the people could join and benefit from some of some of the things we've done. Some, you know, they just probably don't feel that they're part of our industry, but they are. And that was really my part of where I think about it.
I can just jump in here. Membership engagement is a huge importance, and it is one of the strategic points that the board of directors are looking at. And I'm on actually the task force. We've set up a number of task forces, and one of them is membership engagement. And we are looking at various different areas that we should be trying to get engagement with different organizations, whether it be hotels, management companies, clubs, or even from the vendor side as well. It is something that we're going to be presenting some initiatives back to the board in a week or so's time, because this is something that we do see, that there is a lot of potential members out there that could massively benefit from being engaged with HFTP on the education side, and also events like HITEC as well.
Great, excellent. Barry, I've had a question in the article you referred to. In Hospitality Upgrade, was that with the CIO of? So it's the Hospitality Upgrade magazine.
Hospitality Upgrade magazine. I think it was last month's issue, and the articles are like the front cover is technology rock stars. And if Andrew has that in front of him, I'm sure he can hold it up on camera if it shows up with his nice background, because sometimes you kind of lose them. But,
yeah. Go ahead, Andy.
On Andrew's screen there.
And you can get a digital version of that magazine.
It is all available online. There we go. That's exactly it. Thank you, Andrew. But it is available online. If you give me a second, I will post a link to those articles in the chat.
Fantastic. Thank you very much. And Barry and Mark, this year, Barry, you've had a bit of a year. Last time we spoke, you know, you were 6,000-7,000 miles away. What's been the highlight of your year other than coming back to your beloved London?
I guess the sausage rolls and the Scotch eggs.
Yeah.
No,
Yes.
I think the signs of positivity that we're seeing within the industry, these kind of events, seeing that people, after such a difficult year that a lot of people are faced with, you know, furloughs and redundancies, that the industry is still strong, that people are still wanting to give back to the industry and joining and participating in events like this is so important. And so I think my highlight is seeing the resilience of our industry and the green shoots. The businesses are starting to come back. I think you alluded to it. Seeing 45,000 people at Wembley yesterday is huge. Being in that crowd is, you know, watching a year of football with no one there. It's like the players are saying it makes a huge difference. That's what they're there to do. And it's the same with us in our industry. Seeing guests coming back into our hotels, and I was lucky enough to be in the hotel yesterday, seeing guests starting to return and to be able to surprise and delight those, it makes us all do a better job. And I think that's been my highlight.
Fantastic. And I guess it's only but appropriate we should ask the HFTP president maybe to finally to close out our season. Mark, what's been the highlight for you this year?
Can I share one personally? We had kind of a double whammy with Highpointe. In February and March of last year, 4 of our hotels were sold. So that was a quarter of our portfolio. And then COVID hit. So it was kind of a double whammy. So a highlight is that business is stabilizing, the company is restabilizing. So that has been great. Real highlight though is, and people have asked this, hey, you know, global president at a time like this, Michael kind of went through it too, but just seeing the HFTP staff in Austin having to pivot and repivot and pivot, and the HFTP family, you all in the US and just everywhere else, just saying, hey, we're with you, we're a family, we're going to get through this together, we're going to learn from this, we're going to be better going forward, we're going to get back to the live events and then giving the hugs and the high fives and all that good stuff. And now I am seeing that come to fruition. So that has been the highlight of my year.
Fantastic. Thank you very much indeed. So, ladies and gentlemen, I just thought I'd let you share a couple of statistics. We've had almost on HFTP Europe Hangouts and also the sessions, since we started in April last year, we've had almost 2,500 of you register to join us. And we've had almost 1,500 attend live. And if you can believe this, almost as many, 1,500 or so, watch the recordings of our various sessions. So fantastic. Thank you for joining us. I think it shows to all of us who put stuff on for you that we obviously got the agenda mostly right, not every time. But thank you very much indeed for joining us. I'd like to wish you a great sporting summer, Olympics, cricket, rugby with the British Lions, England and football coming home. Absolutely fantastic. I wish you a really good summer. And just to sign us out for the final time before September, I'd like to hand back to Victoria to see us out. Victoria, back to you.
All right. Well, thank you, Carl. And of course, all of our panel members today, including Mark Pate for joining us. And thanks to everyone for joining us this season on the Europe Hangouts. It's a pleasure getting to know all of our stakeholders and members worldwide. So if you can, don't forget about HITEC Dallas. It is going to be on September 27th through 30th. And we are going to start these back up in September too. So have a great summer. Enjoy your holidays. And this closes today's HFTP European Hangout.
Bye, everybody.
Thank you, everyone.
Cheers.
Thank you. Bye-bye.
Bye.
Football's coming home. It's
It's gone.
Bye, everyone.